We're talking about the world of espionage and intelligence, and if you can think of any world where AI,
Yeah.
some automation is more relevant, I'd be hard-pressed to think of it.
Yeah.
It's just such a dynamic environment, high risk, high stakes, and a place where you really have to get AI right.
Welcome to the Process Masters podcast. I'm your fellow automation, workflows, process enthusiast, Amelia, and today we have a great show for you. Well, today's guest is Jennifer Ewbank. She is founder of Adaman Strategic Advisors and former deputy director of digital innovation at the CIA. Well, Jennifer led one of the boldest modernization efforts in U.S. intelligence history, guiding a global workforce of thousands through digital transformation and the rise of AI, cybersecurity, and new technologies. Well, at Oracle AI World, Jennifer brings a rare perspective what it means to lead technology and innovation from the top of the enterprise when your background isn't technical and the mission can't wait. Well, in this hour with us, you'll learn how to lead large scale digital transformation without being a technologist, how to build culture and trust that move at speed of mission, and what every leader can borrow from the intelligence world to guide teams through the AI era. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm super excited to talk to you.
I'm excited to be here, Amelia. Thank you so much for the invitation. And those who used to watch probably don't, young people don't know Monty Python from the old days. I'll say, and now for something completely different. We're talking about the world of espionage and intelligence. And if you can think of any world where AI,
Yeah.
some automation is more relevant, I'd be hard-pressed to think of it.
Yeah.
It's just such a dynamic environment, high risk, high stakes, and a place where you really have to get AI right.
Right. And that's exactly where I want to start with, because most of our audience here might not know what the Directorate of Digital Innovation is. And so could you paint us that picture, what organizations you led, the scale of the mission, and why digital transformation was key back then?
Thank you. And I wouldn't expect anyone to know what it is because, well, why would you, right? It is the CIA, so
Yeah.
it's not something that we talk about publicly that much.
Mm.
But very briefly, I'll just outline. CIA comprised of 5 directorates.
Mhm.
Each directorate is headed by a deputy director of the CIA, so I was one of those. We have operations, so that's the world of James Bond in the movies, right? Collecting secrets about the plans and intentions of adversaries around the world.
Mhm.
And that's where I spent decades. That was my job for decades. Then we have analysis. So analysts who prepare objective assessments of global issues for policymakers. Their job is to tell very important people what they need to know, not what they want to hear, which is an important distinction.
Yeah.
Our support directorate, so finance, security, logistics, medical care, everything you can think of to run a secret organization all around the world.
Oh, my.
And then science and technology. So for anyone who has watched Bond films, for example, that would be Q. So it's technology largely with a physical manifestation stuff. And then digital innovation, which is our newest directorate. It was created in 2015 in recognition of the incredible transformation that was underway outside those walls of the CIA, in life, in work, in business, in academia, everywhere. Digital tech was really accelerating change of all kinds.
Exactly.
And it was created in recognition that we needed to bring together all these different capabilities, which are usually siloed, in order to leverage it for both new capabilities that would enable us to do a very difficult job and to defend against our adversaries who are using it against the United States. So the directorate comprises enterprise information technology, global secure communications, cybersecurity, data, and all the things you can think about data, strategy and engineering and all this stuff. Artificial intelligence, open source intelligence, so everything that's available publicly out there. Authorized lawful cyber collection, so the good guy hackers who go against bad guys. And then a really important training and education mission for the CIA as a whole to help everyone learn enough about digital tech that they could leverage these new capabilities.
Mhm.
And so when I came into that job in 2019, it really was a pivotal moment because, as I mentioned, think about the world at that time.
Yeah.
Um, Digital technology is changing everything.
Mhm.
And anybody who's in a company and a business, you can think back to what that looked like. But imagine the world of secret intelligence, right?
Yeah.
We have a world of ubiquitous sensing.
Mhm.
There are, I think, latest count, more than 20 billion Internet of Things sensors out there, so that everywhere you go, Amelia, everyone you talk to, everything you do, everything you write is 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 sensed
Mhm.
by something somewhere. Now imagine trying to do very delicate secret work. So here we were in this environment. We really had to figure out, how do we leverage all of this to enable us to do an impossible job
Mhm.
and protect the country against adversaries who are using this tech. And for me, it really came down to AI.
Mhm.
It really was about pulling it all together and understanding that we needed to partner with machines in a new way in order to succeed.
Mhm.
And I used to go so far as to say that it was an existential
Yeah.
issue for the CIA and the US intelligence community to get AI right,
Yeah.
or we'd be completely obsolete in very short order. So
And
that was
we're
the
talking
task.
and we're talking about 2019.
Yes,
It's not
so 3
2025 AI.
right,
It's
so 3 years before GPT-3,
yeah.
and kind of the world saw, "Oh, ChatGPT, what is this thing?"
Mhm.
Right? That was
Mhm.
2022. So
Yeah.
think about that. We were already, experimenting with those tools and trying to figure out how we can both automate some
Mhm.
functions,
Yeah.
some back office business functions,
Mhm.
but probably even more important for us is, how do we extract insights from masses and masses and masses of data the masses of data were growing quite literally exponentially if you draw
Mhm.
that curve, right?
Yeah.
It was just exploding. And so that was our task. How do we do that? How do we drive that innovation? How do we, work across silos in an organization? How do we work with the private sector in the
Mhm.
United States? All that stuff
Mhm.
coming together. Oh, and then a few months later, pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
was
you
going
can
to ask
yeah,
you about that because
exactly.
it's changed all over because
Everything.
it's one thing to change to adapt
Yeah.
to a new world and
Yeah.
digital transformation, but as you were doing that, another change comes.
It was hugely disruptive, as everyone knows, all around the world, and really tragic for so many
Yeah.
people. And so I will say that, and that was our focus, the safety of our people, the
Mhm.
health of their families. But now imagine this challenge.
Mhm.
So Amelia is a secret CIA officer somewhere around the world,
Mm.
and wherever you're living and working, everything is closed down.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to be out on the streets. You're isolated. You're sequestered, but
Mhm.
you still have to collect secret intelligence about, the next terrorist plot,
Mhm.
the next weapons of mass destruction program that's not authorized, like all these things. So that was our challenge, and it was a really difficult situation, and there was, human tragedy every day.
Mhm.
The one thing I will say, though, is that really galvanized support and attention for digital capabilities.
Mhm.
Because if you can't do something physically, you have to do it virtually.
Yeah.
And so that demand that we continue to produce, to deliver insights,
Mhm.
it helped as a catalyst for more rapid transformation.
So that earlier job of
Mhm,
digital transformation and early on AI,
mhm.
that became the basis for what you did afterwards and the demand for virtual attention to your job when pandemic hit.
I think that's right. I think what it did, it really drove dramatic and rapid transformation in, let's say, the IT stack, right?
Mm.
So let's talk about the cybersecurity, the enterprise IT,
Mhm.
global secure communications, like that vertical.
Mhm.
Um, that drove a lot of transformation, and we had to get that right.
Yeah.
You had to get that right in order to exist and to operate and to be successful. But I think it also made people comfortable
Mhm.
with rapid transformation because, unlike most large organizations,
Mhm.
even today,
Yeah.
um, what that what that very difficult circumstance required was integration in a way that you don't always see across the tech silos. So having cybersecurity at the table when you're developing the system, not later, right? Moving that left, so you have cybersecurity, you have data, you have all your experts at the table to deliver a new capability rather than, so they're doing this in parallel and together rather than in serial, where in the old days, enterprise IT creates a system, they deliver it to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity says, I don't like that. They send it back and you redo it. And then it eventually makes its way to the data people. And they say, that's not going to work for our data, et cetera, et cetera. So it drove a dramatic transformation in integrated approach to tech development. And that, I think, made people much more comfortable later with the more dramatic transformations about the data and the AI.
And did that become the new standard?
It's the new expectation.
Okay.
And now, anyone who's worked in large companies, large organizations with legacy culture, legacy silos will know that, that's the expectation. It is the norm. Is it always the case that people don't, revert back to, we say muscle memory that developed over decades? You still have that. But it's the expectation that there's an integrated effort at the development stage and not later where you just, I don't know, you review a system and judge it and send it back to the beginning.
Yeah. I want to go back to something that you mentioned, this culture of secrecy and all the protection that you must have at the same time speed. How do you drive digital transformation in an environment like that? Because cybersecurity is one thing, right? When you put all of the needs that the organization that you were working in had, it's other deal, right? Secrecy is the beginning, I think, of the ordeal.
Yeah, it's a good question. I've been asked many times whether that affected, how you lead, how you deliver the capabilities, and it does. But let me put it this way: so there is a really critical competition underway that is something that most people don't see or think about. And there is, let's say, um, with the U.S. and allies around the world, an effort to innovate and deliver new capabilities, largely, not always, but largely in support of generally democratic principles, largely valuing privacy, security, largely looking to enable knowledge sharing, to enable knowledge discovery, to enable new innovation. There is another model, however, that is being developed in parallel, and that is an authoritarian model that really looks at digital tech from the lens of monitoring and controlling society and information that society can obtain. And so the two ideas about AI safety are dramatically different. For us, it means we don't want, unintentional bias to come into a model. The other is I don't want Jennifer to have access to certain information that is threatening to me. I mention that because there's urgency in that. If you really do see it as a competition, as we did in the intelligence community, we felt like we need to win. We need to win because there's a values issue here. We want a future where freedom is, secured, where privacy is important, where people make decisions about their own data sovereignty, right? We wanted that future. And for us, there was a race afoot. And so for a large workforce, globally deployed, doing very complex work, it was important that we talked about, I used to say, the big why. Why are we doing this? Why am I building this system? Why am I creating this new capability? Why am I building this model? That was really important. And if you understand the why and you understand the urgency, you can drive things more quickly. And let me add one thing. I'm sorry to go on at length, Amelia, but these are topics I'm really passionate about.
I love listening to you.
There's one other thing that was really unique about our organization, and it's not, I used to think of it as our superpower, let's put it that way. So I've described we have this technology stack, very complex, doing challenging work all around the world, globally dispersed, probably, I don't know, probably the most targeted organization on earth, right? Everybody wants to hack the CIA. Everyone from the most sophisticated actors in countries I won't name to, a teenager in their parents' basement who just thinks it'd be super fun to hack the
Yeah.
CIA, right? So you have that, but we also had a collection spectrum. And so what that meant is that we were the only organization I could ever think of that had offense and defense working together,
Mm.
informing each other's capabilities, helping each other get better.
Mhm.
And then we add into that the data experts, and all of a sudden you have this superpower,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So that was one of the really interesting aspects of kind of driving that transformation at the CIA. And we
Yeah.
had resources in that respect that I think most organizations probably don't.
Yes, yes, yes. These connected
Mhm.
worlds of defense, and that's amazing. That's something that I think all CTOs or all chief technologists out there want to actually build within their teams for sure.
Right.
And talking about that, you were mentioning the why and the reasons why we're building this or that. And the way you so passionately explain that to us, I think it tags back to the fact that you are not a technologist
That's
per
right.
se. You
That's
are
right.
not thinking on the
That's right.
house. You're
Yeah, I'm thinking about the
actually
why.
you're more strategic. So I wanted to ask you, you came from the human intelligence world, not the engineering. So what did you see differently because of that?
So, yeah, it's a great question, and I think, there are tremendous benefits to different leadership styles. I understand that, and anybody, probably many people would have thought, okay, better to have someone who's deeply technical in that role.
Mm.
But the reality is that we had thousands and thousands of amazing technologists, amazing. I think really world class, best in class, and but I came to the job from, as you said, the world of human intelligence and understanding what our adversaries, our most capable adversaries, were already doing in that
Mhm.
digital world, how they were leveraging these new capabilities,
Mhm.
and importantly, what their strategy was going forward to, in essence,
Mhm.
supplant the United States as the world's leading superpower
Mhm.
and to redesign the world order that would have a particular country at its apex. And in order to do that, actually redefining digital tech standards,
Yeah.
in putting in place an entirely parallel digital ecosystem,
Mhm.
all of the stuff, the fiber optic cables, the data centers, the next generation communications, all the stuff that
Uh-huh.
collects, transports, or analyzes ones and zeros, right?
Mhm.
And so having seen that, I felt the urgency. And and I say this very delicately because, particularly when I started that role in 2019, um, and anyone who comes into a new organization, right? You're
Yeah.
going to learn
Yeah.
what your team is doing. So they come and give you briefings and
Mhm.
presentations, and so I would come to a meeting and there would be a PowerPoint briefing with 57 slides, and and it would be slide 5 before I have to pause and say, okay, wait a second. I know this is important.
Yeah.
I know you're passionate. What are you building? And then why?
Mhm.
Like, what problem are we solving with this? Because I can tell it must be important. What are we solving
Mm.
for? And then I would say very delicately, or maybe my assistant would tell them afterwards, why don't you go back, start with why,
Mhm.
tell what you're going to build to fix that problem, and come back with 3 slides and we'll have a conversation.
Wow.
Because without that,
Mhm.
that you're detached from the real impact of the work. And so each day when I came into the office, I really did think about
Mhm.
those people who were out, we used to say, at the pointy end of the spear, meaning out in some dangerous country
Mhm.
somewhere doing very difficult work and who were relying on these teams
Yeah.
in Washington to develop new capabilities and deliver them and to support them and partner with them
Yeah.
in a way that would enable them to succeed. And so each day I thought about those people,
Mhm.
and I thought about our analysts who needed insights from this, tsunami of data
Mhm.
that they could not possibly analyze otherwise. And I thought about this may seem a little strange, but I thought about my counterpart
Mm.
in that key adversary country,
Mm.
how he would come to work each day and what he was
Mhm.
trying to do.
Mhm.
And so when I walked into our headquarters each day, I thought about that. I
Mhm.
thought about that man
Yeah.
and the race that he was running, and we had to win.
We all have competition,
We all
right?
have
In
competition.
any industry. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that is definitely very useful to anyone out
Well,
there.
we all have competition. We
Yeah.
all have people who are trying to beat us, people are trying to win. But if you add to that a national security
Mm,
lens where there are days when it's somebody's life, right?
definitely, yeah.
So, I mean,
It's a whole
that
other.
crystallizes attention in a
Mm,
way that I think is really powerful. And
mm,
so it's a really long way of saying
mhm,
that in the first few months of
mhm.
that role, I had plenty of days where I thought, do I have some sort of digital deficit, right? um,
Ah,
and what I came to realize that absolutely not.
uh-huh.
What we had was this amazing team, and I felt that there was something
Mhm.
that could help unlock success,
Yeah.
could help propel success, could help them achieve their goals. And that was an understanding of the mission, understanding of our adversaries, an understanding of the urgency, and a real understanding from my background about how we had to integrate across technical silos in order to deliver new capabilities.
Yeah.
Because already in 2019, and I'm going to guarantee any technology company you work with, Amelia, has this. There is no new capability that can be delivered in a single tech silo.
No.
No enterprise IT team can actually deliver a new system if they're not working
Mm.
with cybersecurity, not working with data, if they're not working with their cloud providers. Like you can
Yeah, workflows are key and integration is a must.
and the horizontal has
Yeah.
even in an organization like the CIA, which has a very compelling mission, we really had to focus on the horizontals.
Yeah.
How do you get all those teams
Mhm.
working together?
Mhm.
Um, in order to deliver something new.
So that's where your human
I
intelligence
think so.
background
I
came
think so.
to play. And in one word, I think trust is
Mm,
also key.
I think it
So I
is.
want to know, coming in
Yeah,
and adding the storytelling
yeah.
aspects to all of these intros that you had, what helped you build trust
That's
early on?
interesting. That's a good question, and I don't know that I'll have the perfect answer, but um, I think two things really help. One is genuine curiosity. I
Mhm.
genuinely wanted to know, to understand.
Mhm.
So you're leading a tech project. I sincerely wanted to understand,
Mhm.
and I wanted to understand your background. And
Active
what are you trying?
listening.
Curiosity and sincerity, right?
Yeah.
Paired with humility,
Mm.
right? I was not going to come in and tell a PhD data scientist what I thought she should produce instead.
Mhm.
That was never going to work. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
These are amazing, talented people.
Mhm.
And what they needed was for me to understand enough to understand how it all fit together,
Mhm.
what resources they needed, what barriers could I eliminate.
Mhm.
That was my job. What partnerships could I build outside? All of that. And so I really do think it was curiosity with active listening,
Mhm.
um, and humility that helped people. I think it helped build trust.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty candid, transparent person. And so I'll share one little quick vignette. Every year, our directorate had a big conference. It was a day-long thing, and it wasn't like any government conference. It was more
Mhm. Okay.
like a tech conference.
Mhm.
So great lighting and music, and
Yeah.
lightning round talks, and fireside chats, and tech demos. It was very interactive
Mhm.
and vibrant.
Mm.
And so that annual event was scheduled a couple weeks after I arrived. And so I hadn't met that many people yet because,
Mhm.
everyone's around the world, et cetera. And then I was offered or told, okay, so here you're going to do a keynote. I said, well, I just arrived, right? Um, I said, okay, great.
Mhm.
So instead of, pontificating about the
Mhm.
future of tech to all these people who knew it all better than I did,
Mhm.
I literally got up on stage and probably the second sentence was, a lot of you are probably wondering why I'm here.
Mm.
Let me tell you what I think I can bring and
Mhm.
what I think I can do for you and why I'm happy to be here.
Mhm.
And I think, again, that humility, that candor, goes a long way to building trust with the workforce.
Yeah, yeah, I think we can all take a lot from that. Joining a new team, and even
Yeah.
in your case, and in the case of many leaders listening to us here who are going after no-code tools, AI
Mhm.
tools to build because they are not the technologists
Mhm.
behind the ideas. I think having this tone
Mhm.
of humility and
Yeah.
this curiosity that you mentioned, that's definitely key. But I want to bring the why back
Yeah.
because I think that's also something that you brought to the table.
I think that's fair. I think
Yeah.
that's true. And maybe that's a reflection of my own personality. So
Mhm.
here I came out of a world that was all about service and sacrifice,
Mhm.
candidly. And you don't do that unless there is something
Mhm.
in your heart that drives you.
Yeah.
There has to be
A purpose.
a purpose, or as a wonderful professor I know calls it, a deep purpose.
Mm.
It has to be there. Otherwise, how do you show up every day to do something that might most people might think is impossible,
Yeah.
that is very demanding, that's
Mhm.
going to demand a lot of your time, your energy, your family.
Mhm.
You're separated from people you love for
Mhm.
long periods of time, doing this secret work. You have to have that
Yeah.
inner motivation.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, even and maybe particularly when we're talking about developing technology to solve these really complex problems,
Mhm.
because you can become detached, right? Because I know what it's like to work on a problem and you're really passionate about it
Mhm.
and you're
Mhm.
deep in the details
Yeah.
and you become really focused, but you can forget, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I being
Mhm.
asked to, work extra hours, to sacrifice time with my family, et
Mhm.
cetera? And you have to understand, maybe it is literally that somebody's life is going to depend on the tool that you are creating.
Mm.
And helping people map their job to the outcome, I think, is part of a good leader's job.
Mhm.
Because think about a large organization, there's so many layers,
Yeah.
right? And particularly big enterprise
Mhm.
programs.
Mhm.
So we're going to have technologists who are doing amazing, fantastic, critical work, maybe 5 layers in, and they're so far from
Mhm.
the impact of that work that sometimes you need to help people map that.
Yeah.
You need to walk in and say, "Thank you so much for your work on this project. Do you know that
Mhm.
what we're building today is going to save lives on the
Mhm.
battlefield in such and such a place? Do you understand that people today are going to rely on you to protect them,
Mhm.
and what you're building today is critical?
Mm.
Thank you."
Yeah, so bringing back the outcomes
Absolutely.
to people building the solution. How do you
Absolutely.
do that on a global scale?
Yeah, that's really hard.
Yeah.
And so any global company has that challenge.
Mhm.
And you really do have to rely on a lot of virtual engagements.
Mm.
During the pandemic, we got into a rhythm where we did a lot of things virtually.
Mhm.
So, like as many organizations, we had virtual town hall where people would dial in from all around the world in order to share the latest information or guidance on the
Mhm.
pandemic and protections we were taking.
Mhm.
Um, so that got us in the rhythm of doing it, and we kind of learned how to do it well,
Yeah.
how to make it interactive in a way that I think many people don't when they have
Mhm.
virtual like town halls or presentations where you dial in from your desk and it's somebody just talking to you the whole time,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
you tune out.
Mhm.
I'm going to go do something else, but I'm going to stay dialed in so they think I'm listening, right?
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
But we found really unique ways to make them interactive, to have multidisciplinary teams
Mm.
all together on camera from different locations, having interactive engagements, talking about problem solving. We would
Mhm.
have kind of a chat along the side where people could put up questions and a moderator who could say, "Oh, Amelia from such and
Mhm.
such a location would like to ask the following question," trying to draw people in. And so with that, that became a really powerful tool for us. We didn't
Mhm.
do it as frequently after the pandemic, but a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
And then the second piece um, that I think is important, we haven't touched on it, but is when you've got, I'll put it this way, you've got a really diverse workforce.
Mhm.
Everyone from, let's say, myself. So I'm a child of the 60s, and the last coding class I had was Fortran and had punch cards, and it was 1983 in UC Berkeley, um, to PhD data scientists
Mhm.
and quantum physicists,
Mhm.
right? Everything in between. Um, there is a place, a really essential place for what I would call foundational digital acumen training.
Mm.
Some core curriculum
Mhm.
delivered asynchronously all around the world, virtually, on their own schedule,
Okay.
so that there's a middle ground where everyone has the
Mm.
same lexicon,
Okay.
where everyone understands the basics of what is cloud computing?
Mm.
What is an AI model? What are the data standards that we work towards, et cetera? Now, many of these people are going to know a lot of this stuff, but they're not going to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, PhD data scientists may not have really ever thought about how cloud works. And, our cloud engineers may never have thought about data standards, but enough, just enough so that everyone had the same lexicon. And all of a sudden, what you unlock is communication that could not have existed at that same level before, an understanding, a mutual understanding that helps unlock success. And that was a really important part of leading a globally deployed workforce, doing very challenging work, because you had to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And it had to be short, concise, efficient, and on their own schedules.
So you did that with your team,
Yes.
and then you delivered across to all other teams, and you had your KPIs to
So
make
that-
sure people were actually consuming these. People were
So
actually.
we went further than that. We had, so it's thousands of people all around the world.
Yeah.
And I simply mandated that everyone had to certify. There was a certification at the end. So nothing too hard, but,
The minimum.
the minimum. So there was a course of study, certification at the end, and a timeline, and everyone had to accomplish it by that deadline. And I made sure that I was, if not the first, one of the first to finish.
Oh, yeah.
And so we made little badges that we put in
Yeah.
our signature blocks, so we knew. And it became a bit of a challenge for people, like, oh, did you finish yours yet? I know that sounds a little bit goofy, but again, having a core understanding, a common understanding of what you're trying to do requires a common lexicon.
Yeah.
And that was a great way to do it with a
And
globally
you
dispersed
saw
workforce.
change after that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. So think about all those other things that were happening, right? We're driving integration across the technical silos. We have urgency in delivering new capabilities. We've gone through, this tremendous challenge, as everyone did with the pandemic, and we came out the other end realizing, no, we can actually do this. We can actually innovate on a rapid schedule and deliver capabilities that help, right? So you've got all that stuff coming together. You add into that a core curriculum where people have a common lexicon, and all of a sudden, the conversations across those tech silos are really different. So I did see really positive changes after that.
Education is key after
It
all.
is, but you
Yeah.
have to make it easy to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It has to be, in my opinion,
Short, first of all.
micro modules on their own schedule in a way that works for them, where meeting people where they are, as we say.
Yeah.
And they're not always sitting in the office and they can't always go to a 1 or 2 hour lecture. It has to be where they are.
Yeah. I want to bring the AI for decision advantage back in government and in business alike. Everyone is chasing the decision advantage.
That's exactly
So
right.
how did you think about AI as a tool? And you thought of that early on, as we saw, but for faster, for better insights. And how did you bring that on?
So I thought about it in three, well, there are thousands of ways you could think about it, but I really focused on 3 things.
Okay.
One was extracting decision advantage, information advantage from the vast amounts of data that we had for operational advantage. So that is for those people, as I said, at the pointy end of the spear, somewhere dangerous in the world, somewhere elsewhere in the world, trying to accomplish a really challenging mission, who needed the insights from all that data. And so that's not only, let's say, the kinds of data I've referred to or alluded to with Internet of Things devices and the kind of technical collection, et cetera, but it's also all the open source information that's out there, everything that's available publicly and commercially, super powerful. So if I'm asking operations officer Amelia to go out and do something that's really, really hard, I need to give you every advantage you can possibly have. I need to really understand if we're sending someone out to do a job that requires accepting risk, maybe there's a little danger. And I'm saying that the only way we can collect that information that our country vitally needs or our allies vitally need, the only way is through this secret methodology. I better be sure that that is the only way. And that is making use of all the other stuff we have. How do I close the range of things that we have to deploy people out to use, sensitive methodologies and technology? So that is giving an operational advantage, a decision advantage to those folks. The second one would be for our analytic products. So the the judgments, the analytic assessments that our organization delivered to the president and to policymakers, we have to be confident that we truly understand these issues. And if there's a tsunami of open source collection, but you can't actually extract insights,
Yeah.
right? You can't do that at the human to data scale. It has to be humans with machines to the data. And so that was the space where we really understood that there had to be this, dynamic partnership between humans and machines in order to make sense of all that data, in order to inform analytic judgments so that we can, with confidence, tell the president and policymakers that, this country plans to do this thing. That was really critical. And then the third bin, if you will, and it often got, I think, overlooked in the more exciting aspects of what the CIA does, is business operations. Think about that. Running a complex organization all around the world, it's really challenging. So think finance, logistics, all the stuff I mentioned earlier. And the power of AI, let's say automation at one end, and some AI at the other, the power of that to accelerate back office functions, incredible, right? And we had to do that in order to succeed. And so I looked at it, our mission, if you will, for the development and deployment of AI, and I'm using that term loosely in this case because there's some of that is automation. I view that as, delivering advantage in those three bins.
Yeah, I want to dig deeper into that. I have actually two follow-up questions. The first one on the second bin. Many leaders out there are doing exactly that right now, deciding what stays with a human in the circle and what AI can actually augment. So do you have a framework that you used, or how did you decide?
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's a unique use case, right? And so I often think about the role of human curation and judgment compared to the level of risk and outcomes, right?
Okay.
So if it's a low risk activity with high volumes of information, I'm going to take a little more risk toward automation,
Okay.
right? So let's say it's something like processing an invoice, right? Okay, we have tools that could do some of that in an automated fashion. The risks are pretty low. We do some audits from time to time. We look for anomalies. I'm okay taking risks there.
Okay.
However, if we're talking about that second bin, the analytic bin, and judgments upon which national policy might hinge, upon which partnerships with countries around the world might be affected, the risk is going to be less. And so our model was really about curating our data based on our deep expertise already. So in the open source arena, for example, the CIA has subject matter experts who've worked on this for decades and decades and decades as an organization for almost 80 years. So subject matter expertise, we understand the data sources, we understand the news outlets, we understand all of that. So that expertise is actually curating our data. And then the outcomes are evaluated by subject matter expertise. So the machine helps accelerate, but didn't replace.
Okay.
And I used to tell folks that the only place for automated, or let's say autonomous decision making with AI at the CIA was in cybersecurity, where we're in this race today where attackers are using AI to attack. So they've got self-adaptive malware, they've got they're exploring systems using AI, all that stuff. If you have attackers using AI and coming at machine speed, you have to be able to respond to
Okay,
machine,
so it's about
speed.
speed.
That was about
Objectivity
speed
as well?
Well, yes, and I'll put it that way, because that one place where I used to say autonomous decision-making is going to be necessary was cybersecurity, because as soon as a machine can recognize that there is this anomalous activity underway, what I want at machine speed is close the door, close the gate, raise the drawbridge, stop lateral movement,
The threat.
and bring in humans. And then bring in humans immediately. And that's where, that partnership looks a little different than, let's say, the analytic one does. But we have to be able to respond at machine speed to I don't know, to seal off, if you will, any further damage if there is
Yeah.
intrusion.
Makes sense. So the follow-up question that I
Yeah,
had on the
yeah,
third bin is, do you have any example on the
yeah,
back office
yeah,
end? Because it's
yeah,
very interesting, and I think
yeah,
all of us can relate,
yeah.
because right now, that's something that all companies could be doing with AI,
Mhm.
automating their
Yeah.
workflows, and there are so many tasks that can be speed up
Yeah.
with the help of
No, there
an
are,
agent.
and there's so many great companies out there, like your own,
Yeah.
right? Who are helping people do that in a no-code way. I use a particular capability for my own small business.
Mhm.
Um, but if I'm going back, and this isn't about automation and workflows and the whole world of
Mhm.
agents, as today that's the big
Yeah.
thing. But I'll go back and just share one brief vignette that I think it really helped the organization understand the power of all of
Mhm.
this. So going back to the pandemic, again, that's before kind of the real public recognition of what LLMs could do and what generative AI would do. Um, so pandemic hits.
Mm.
And again, think about what we're trying to do. We're trying to continue doing a really dangerous, well, a really mission critical job at a time when most of the world is home,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Isolating.
Mhm.
Um, and so we turn to data. We turn to data. We very creative use of all the data. Think of all the data that we collect through our systems, through our,
Mhm.
through security systems, through logins, through all this stuff,
Mhm.
in order to actually apply rigorous standards to understand. Okay, how many people can and should work
Mm.
in which locations at which times? How do we bring in all the data
Mhm.
from the actual pandemic health monitors? What do we know about the environment? What do we know about spread? What do we know about risk? How do we apply that to our data in order to say that,
Mhm.
okay, we can bring in this many people
Yeah.
operating in these locations
Mhm.
in order to minimize the spread of the pandemic? And most important, no, not most important, very importantly, continue to deliver
Mm.
on our really critical mission. And I think that experience helped people understand that um, business analytics, for example,
Mhm.
um, it can be a pretty dry subject
Yeah.
if that's not the world that excites you.
Mhm.
But it was a moment where all these people who are at the pointy end of the spear, and they're writing analytic products, and they're building amazing technical platforms.
Yeah.
It was a moment where they could see, oh, wait a second,
Mhm.
this is relevant. This is
Mm.
helpful. This is really important. And I think become much more likely to embrace those back office business functions with automation, with data
Mhm.
analytics. That was a turning point for us.
Mhm. Yeah, and thinking on that, on those other companies and everyone working on things that could come in and collaborate, let's talk a little bit about the public and private
Oh,
collaboration.
yeah.
You worked with policymakers, foreign partners, the U.S. industry as well. So, what does an effective public-private partnership look like,
Yeah.
in your opinion?
That's a great question because it's something that policymakers in Washington, D.C. talk about a lot,
Mm.
right? Um, and I'll be very candid. Usually, when they talk about it, it's some version of they want industry to do more.
Mm.
They want industry to be more flexible. They want industry to be more responsive. But I have to acknowledge that government needs to do more. They need to do more to meet in the middle. They need to make it easier for industry to work with government.
Mm.
That is one of the big challenges in the U.S. still. Just the volume of regulation and just kind of habits and how they interact with the industry does slow down
Mm.
innovation. And the critical fact, and one of the reasons that I focus so much on public-private partnerships, is that unlike decades past, where in fact the CIA was often at the cutting edge of technological innovation, creating new stuff that
Mhm.
you know the world is benefiting from today. If I had my cell phone, I would take it out. And the lithium battery technology that came
Yeah.
out of the CIA, right? You're welcome. But and there are many other
Yeah.
things that started as a CIA technical program. Um, that's not today.
Mm.
Today, that innovation, and you know this working in the industry,
Yeah.
um, is coming out of private sector.
Mhm.
That's where the dynamic, fast-moving ideas are coming. And so government has to learn, say this a lot, how to be a fast follower.
Mm.
And in order to leverage those new capabilities and do so in partnership.
Yeah.
So it the theme that that I came back to frequently is that we had to stop having simply what were transactional relationships where you have a product, I want to buy the product, we're done.
Mm.
It really needed to be a strategic partnership over time where a company is equally interested in protecting the country and thinking about how they can help. Government is very interested in what's newest in the development pipeline, what can help us solve problems in the future, where there's a dialogue and a willingness to support each other, even through, and maybe today is a good example, through more challenging times,
Yeah.
right? We're under tremendous budget pressure in Washington for government programs. So, if you don't have that understanding, that relationship of trust, going back to trust, some transparency and a strategic partnership, how do you survive difficult times? So you need to invest in those partnerships up front is my
And leverage from opportunities as well, because this
Absolutely.
connects to today's AI landscape.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you think we can build trust across borders and sectors in that case?
It's really interesting. And it's funny because it's going to sound very similar to our earlier conversation because I think it really is about transparency. It's about robust communication. It's about a bit of humility and curiosity. And so I'll share that in that final role that I had at CIA, um, it's not something people would normally think of. I spent a lot of time traveling around the world and talking to other governments, trying to find common ground. We're all facing similar challenges. How do we leverage the value of open source? How do we protect our systems from attack? We're all facing similar things, but we have very different interests, right? And so that experience, I think, really crystallized in my mind the importance of finding that common goal, common lexicon, finding the thing that you agree on that you could build partnership around in order to build trust and confidence. And the same goes with industry in the US. So, long way of saying, I think it was really about finding common areas of cooperation and building some trust through that partnership so that when the day comes, if it ever comes, where you've got something really, really hard you have to do. And in the world of foreign policy, that happens all the time because countries' interests are shifting all the time. And if you don't have that relationship when the difficult time comes, you don't have a relationship. And if you do, then you can weather that storm. And that I viewed as a really important aspect of the job.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think that goes for government, but it goes for
Anybody.
any partnership,
I agree.
out there that you can have with
I
your
agree.
main customers, with your main suppliers, and yeah, definitely. So Jennifer, I want to go back a little bit on storytelling
Oh.
because you mentioned that you send people back to their office, come back later
Oh.
with this
Right.
deck better
Yeah.
organized on the why, and then after that, you also mentioned that we need to bring the outcomes to people
Yeah.
building. So, how do you connect storytelling to
know.
good leadership?
It's a good question. It's going to sound kind of like a silly thing to focus on, but it was important to me. The I came to see that the most effective technologists are not just the most technologically capable. The most effective could take all of that amazing stuff, right, that they can create, and they can translate it for others. And being able to translate that for others does not come naturally to everyone. And that is really about storytelling. And so if you think about, we can take examples, famous examples. You think about, Elon Musk, right? What do you know about Elon Musk? We know a lot of things. We know that he's an amazing, he's got an amazing mind, a technical genius, but he has vision.
Yeah.
We are going to be multi-planetary society. We are going to Mars. Like the story
Yeah.
of what he's trying to build, and that helps bring people along.
Yeah.
And it really is similar on a much smaller scale in a large organization where I needed technologists to be able to share like the why, help people understand what they were trying to accomplish, what the impact would be. And then in those moments where you really did succeed, share that. Help people understand the power of it. Like we had examples, and I won't go into details, understandably, but We had a program, an AI program, going back a couple years, very soon after GPT-3 came out. So everyone's embracing experimentation with large language models. And this particular program quite literally saved lives. There were people alive today who wouldn't be alive had we not done that work. And it was an effort to extract insights from data in near real time to provide warning to people who were under threat of attack. And so a team of technologists created this amazing thing, and then B, they deployed it and worked really well. But it was really important that that story be told, right? To help people see that, no, there's real impact here. And today, this is the kind of thing that you want to build out at an enterprise level. So storytelling, I'll mention one other thing. It's also really important for the contracting world. So I spend a lot of time these days with companies that are working as technology providers to government. And so there's this whole complex process of bidding on contracts and competing for the job, et cetera. But storytelling is critical. I can create a 57-page PowerPoint deck with all the technical details, but the decision maker in government is not necessarily that technical counterpart. It's going to be a mission counterpart or a business leader. Or it's in industry sense.
Someone who understand the problem.
They're going to resonate with a story. Like, how is this going to help me solve this intractable problem? And so I've seen that in industry these days too, where storytelling is a bit of a superpower. I've used that word already, but it really can be, because it bridges the gap between the user, the decision maker, and the technology programs.
Connection with the why, connection with the problem, and then the solution, how it comes, how it brings the outcome.
And I think that's a really powerful combination. And humanity grew up sitting around a campfire telling stories, right? And that's what speaks to the heart. And as amazing as a technology program might be, if you can't connect it to something that really resonates with people, you're going to have a hard time selling it.
Yeah, definitely. So you you gave us so many examples on leadership. So I wanted to learn a little bit more from you. And if you could go back and looking back, what are, let's say, the three leadership lessons that you can share with us, things that you think that those lessons actually guided me through, those are the actions or the practices that I would do all over again?
Yeah. Well, we've touched on them, and I maybe because this is the way I grew up, I don't know, but I think it really has to start with purpose. All of it starts with purpose. Why? And I just find that any challenging job in the absence of purpose or connection feels hollow. Um, there's something powerful in having purpose, something that gets you out of bed every morning, and you know that, like, hey, I'm going to contribute to a company where we're making things easier for people through automation, and we're going to deliver value, and we're going to make your life better. And like, thinking that way is very powerful. And it's the same in government. And so I think starting with the why is always essential. I think that mission, that why, anchors everything you do. And the second, I touched on this earlier, is trust your experts. Um, you know, I would never second guess technologists in their field. Always trusting the experts. And again, with curiosity, asking, okay, help me understand. How does that work? How do we do this? What do you need from me? Right? But trusting your experts doesn't mean that you don't have a point of view. And so there were occasions where, let's say, the humanities major in the room would just ask that question, like, well, have we thought about it this way? In a way that can unlock, dramatically different insight. And like, oh, well, wait a second, that changes everything, right? So it's trusting your experts, but also understanding that different perspectives are super powerful in digital tech innovation. And you want that. You want to invite people in to ask those questions.
That's
so you
why
have to have that.
diversity is so
You have to
important.
have that environment. You have to have that environment where, I, as a, poli-sci and French major, would not hesitate
Yeah.
to ask a question, to offer a thought for somebody to think about.
Yeah.
And then the third one, I think it goes with any technology thing, is just measure what really matters.
Yeah.
Measure the outcomes, measure the progress, but measure it against things that truly matter. It's not effort, it's outcomes. And so for a world like, the secret world of espionage and intelligence analysis, what you measure is unique. It's uniquely powerful.
Yeah.
But you do measure it because that's how you show people that you're making progress. And, being able to demonstrate that generates interest, excitement, energy, momentum, passion, like all that
And it
stuff.
connects back to purpose.
Absolutely. Because it's all three pieces. And so for me, I think those are probably the three most essential things I would say that were important to me. Kind of start with the why, trust your experts, but value diverse inputs and questions, measure what matters, and help people understand how they're making a difference.
Wow, that's so helpful. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
It's such a pleasure.
People want to connect with you, I'm sure, and learn more from you. So how can we keep track and follow your work and know what you're doing next?
Oh, well, thank you so much for that. That's a lovely question. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I post regularly content around AI, cybersecurity, digital transformation, leadership challenges. So you can always find me there. It's Jennifer Ewbank, spelled with a W. And my website, where I have a running kind of repository of all the latest articles and media interviews and that sort of things. And that is Jennifer-Ewbank.com. Again, Ewbank. If you leave out the dash, you will find the website of a really lovely pop singer in Holland. I wish I were she, but I'm not. So you need the dash, Jennifer-Ewbank. And so you can connect with me about those places.
Thank you so much for being here, Jennifer. And for you this week, well, think about how clearly your team understands the why behind your product, your solution. And if you can't say that in one sentence, well, maybe that's the task for the day. So thank you for being here with
That's
us,
great advice.
Jennifer.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Real pleasure.
That was amazing. Thank you. And I'll see you next in our next Process Masters podcast. See you.